My name is Thomas Ellery. I'm 68 years old. I spent 41 years working utility lines. Early mornings, high places, no shortcuts. The kind of job that teaches you two things: finish what you start and always keep your footing. After I retired, I thought life would quiet down. My wife, Janine, and I had grown distant. Not angry, just tired in the same rooms. Our two kids were grown. The house was paid off. So when she asked for a clean divorce, I didn't fight her. I thought, after everything, she'd at least be fair. If you've ever been blindsided by someone you trusted, hit like, subscribe, and drop your name and city in the comments for a shout-out in the next story. Today's shout-out goes to Leonard from Missoula, who said last week's story reminded him to stop apologizing for things he didn't do. We settled things through lawyers, or so I thought. The paperwork came through clean. She kept the house, I kept the cabin up north, and we split the savings. I figured she'd want the old place for comfort, memories, maybe to pass down one day. It wasn't until nearly 2 years later, while visiting my brother, that I heard the land had been sold. All that Ellery property, he said over coffee. Big developer tried to buy it, then backed out. Word is Janine's still sitting on it, but no longer owns it. I called the county office the next day, asked for the parcel history. She'd sold it, quietly, less than 3 months after the divorce was finalized. Not just the house, the entire lot. Every inch of soil my grandfather had tilled, the old well we covered after the drought, the line of oaks my father planted when I was born. Gone. Sold to a real estate group in Delaware. Holding company. Cash deal. I called my son to ask if he knew. Mom said you gave it up, he replied. Said you signed it away when you left her. I didn't argue. I thanked him, hung up, and sat with it for a long time. She sold my name out from under me, and no one questioned it. I didn't raise hell. I didn't beg. I just called my attorney. Run a watch on that land, I said. If it ever goes up for sale again, I want to be the first call. Because when someone writes you out of your own story, you don't fight for a chapter. You take the book back. 2.5 years passed. I didn't speak to Janine. Didn't send birthday cards to the kids. Not because I stopped caring, but because I knew whatever I sent wouldn't arrive unedited. She controlled the narrative now. I let her. I moved north, lived quiet, managed the cabin repairs myself, worked odd consulting gigs for the county on infrastructure audits. Cash flow was steady. I kept my name off the radar, but every check I earned, I logged. Every document, filed. And every few weeks, I called Martin, my attorney. Not yet, he'd say. Still tied up in some holding group. I waited. Then in early March, he called first. Tom, he said. You sitting down? The developers had pulled out. Environmental restrictions, neighbor pushback, rising costs. All the usual reasons. The land was on the table again. Quietly. No signs in the yard, no listing online. Just a whisper in the right circles. He sent me the purchase agreement that night. Want in your name? No, I said. Use the trust. The one we set up for estate tax purposes. You planning to hide it from her? I'm planning to make sure I don't need to say anything at all. I signed the documents the next morning. Paid in full. No negociation. No fanfare. The land was mine again. The house, still standing, had been kept under a lease agreement by Janine. Rent-free, technically. She assumed she still owned it. What she didn't know was that the last 2 years, the property tax notices were no longer addressed to her. They came to the trust. I didn't change the locks. I didn't call. I just waited for the next payment due date. When it came and went, Martin sent the first letter. Notice to occupant, new ownership confirmed. Lease term subject to review. She called 3 days later. Blocked number. I answered. What the hell is this? You're living on land you no longer own, I said. You'll be receiving a lease agreement by the end of the week. You can't do this. I did it 6 weeks ago. Silence. Then this is petty. No, I said. This is legal. I ended the call. Not with a threat. Just the truth. Some people want an apology. Some want revenge. I just wanted the land back, and a copy of the lease with her signature at the bottom. The lease arrived at her mailbox on a Thursday. Standard month to month. Below market rate. Not because I owed her that, but because I didn't need the money. I wanted the paper. I wanted her name, her signature, and the acknowledgement that this house, this land, no longer answered to her. Martin sent it certified. She signed for it. No call. No email. The following Monday, the document came back. Signed. Initialed on every page. Notarized. She didn't cross anything out. She didn't leave notes in the margins. Just filled it in like any other tenant. That was what she'd become now, legally, quietly, and completely. A tenant. That same week, my daughter called. I hadn't heard her voice in almost 4 years. Mom says you're playing games, she opened with. I'm enforcing property rights, I said. It's not a game. She said you're making her pay rent on her own home. She sold that home. She knew what she was doing. And she's not paying me. She's paying the trust. A pause. Long enough to carry discomfort. She never told us she sold it. I figured. She didn't yell. Didn't defend her. She just said she needed time. I'm not asking for anything, I said. But you should know, I didn't walk away. I was pushed out. Quietly. Cleanly. And I chose not to chase people who wanted me gone. She thanked me. Hung up. No follow-up. But I knew something had shifted. That's what happens when paper does what shouting never could. That weekend, I drove past the old house. Didn't stop. Just watched from the hilltop where my father used to park his truck. The oak trees were taller now. The fence was sagging where I'd once fixed it by hand. Janine's car was in the driveway. She probably thought she won. For a while, she did. She thought I'd let the story end on her terms. But the title's back in my hands. And she pays me rent every month. No reminders. No extensions. Just checks. And silence. The first rent check cleared without issue. No memo line. No handwritten apology tucked inside the envelope. Just a typed check from her personal account, made payable to the trust. Like she was paying a utility bill. It arrived on the 1st of the month. On the 2nd, Martin sent a receipt. Standard practice. No words exchanged. That became the rhythm. She never missed a payment. But I knew it wasn't because she respected the terms. It was because she respected consequences. Janine had always known how to manipulate people. But you can't manipulate a contract. A signature is a signature. The date, the rate, the terms, all fixed now. A few weeks later, Martin forwarded me a letter. From her. Not personal. Formal. To whom it may concern. Please consider extending the lease for an additional 12 months. I am prepared to cover minor maintenance and continue timely payment under current terms. Sincerely, Thomas Ellery. I told Martin to approve the extension. 12 months. No adjustments. No favors. After that, I met with my estate planner. We updated the will. The trust would pass directly to my children, but not Janine. The house would remain part of it. If the kids chose to sell it later, that would be their decision. But she'd never hold the deed again. I left them letters too, one each, stored with the paperwork. They were short, just the facts. What I paid, what she sold, what I reclaimed. I didn't write them to explain myself. I wrote them so they wouldn't grow old wondering. 3 months passed without contact. Then a knock at the cabin door. It was my son. He looked older, not just in years, in realization. He didn't ask to come in, just stood on the porch and said, "She never told us about any of it." I figured she didn't. I would have helped you get it back. I didn't need help. I needed time. He nodded. We didn't talk long, but he left with the binder. The one with every check, every signature, every transaction. I told him, read it slow. He said he would. That night, I added a final clause to the will. If either of them chooses to move into the house after I'm gone, the rent will be lifted permanently, but only if Janine no longer lives there. It's not punishment. It's clarity. The rent still arrives on the 1st. 12 checks and counting. The envelope never changes. Plain, no return address. But the signature never skips. I imagine she signs it with a little less grip each time. No one talks about it. Not at church. Not at family gatherings. My name isn't whispered through clenched teeth anymore. It's avoided entirely. That's fine by me. My son visits now. Not often, but enough. He asks questions. Real ones. About the land. The trees. The well we capped in '91. We don't talk about her unless it's necessary. There's no bitterness in my voice. Just history. He asked once, "Do you ever feel like it was worth it?" I said, "I didn't do it for worth. I did it for what's right." He nodded. That was enough. My daughter's slower to come around. She sends postcards sometimes. Neutral ones. No return address, just hope you're well. I saw this and thought of you. It's progress in its own way. I don't need them to fix anything. I just need them to see clearly. And little by little they are. Janine hasn't contacted me since the lease renewal. Maybe she knows this isn't about money. It never was. It was about paper. Boundaries. The fact that I let her think the house was hers until the law reminded her otherwise. When I die, the land stays in the family, but not in her name. I'll be buried on the far edge of the property, the spot where the sun hits in the early morning and the dirt's soft year-round. I already paid for the plot and the stone. Simple inscription, Thomas Ellery. Son, father, owner. No bitterness, no sermon. Just a name carved into the land she thought she could erase. Some men want to be remembered loudly. I'll settle for being remembered accurately. If this story landed with you, hit like, comment your name and city, and subscribe for more stories of quiet revenge and long-earned peace. You don't have to shout to be heard. Sometimes, all you need is a signature.